This episode is dedicated to Brenda Bude, who unfortunately passed away on the 1st of February last week. And this amazing lady taught me the invaluable lesson of lived experience. When we tend to think about spiritual people, we tend to think about monks or priests or yogis, people that meditate for hours on end or live in some remote cave somewhere. I think it comes to as quite the shock when people meet spiritual leaders or gurus, people that are very high up in terms of idealization in the spiritual world. And I think it comes as a shock to people that they are far more human than they expect. They expect them to be this godly figure, but really they're just normal people. I remember listening to Alan Watts talk about how when he went to India, he was expecting these people to be very like priestly, or he was expecting something different. And when he arrived, they were chain smoking cigarettes or drinking and laughing and burping. And, it didn't live up to his image of what a yogi or a guru should possibly be. It was completely surprising to him of how they were. But I think when you have searched for long enough, when you have done enough of the work, you realize that this is a human experience that we are meant to be having. We are not meant to transcend it. We are meant to be human. We are meant to be fallible. We are meant to make mistakes. We are meant to do things that are illogical, not necessarily be perfect or, to transcend all of human pleasure or all of human desire. We are not meant to escape ourselves. We are meant to embrace ourselves. We are meant to be as us as possible. You are meant to be as you as possible, and that is your task on this world, is to align as closely as you can with who you really are. Not to become something different out of shame or guilt, but to become who you really are and who you are meant to be. And I find in many spiritual circles that most people miss the point. They spend all of their time trying to talk about how they are better than everyone else, or, that they have things figured out that nobody else does, and that somehow makes them less human or more than human. And I think that they miss the point. It often becomes about denying yourself, denying who you are, denying what you really want, and acting like that is some self-righteous act. And this isn't to negate the importance of discipline or self-control, but when it slips into extremism, it becomes a form of control. It becomes about trying to convince yourself that you can do something to become more than what you are. You can escape the fact that you are human, that you have desires that you may not agree with. You have wants and needs that you may judge and shame. These kinds of people often look down on people who give in to their desires, who give themselves what they want, whether that's a chocolate bar or fast dopamine. They look at that as if like they're better than that because they deny themselves, when in actual fact they are extremely repressed, and the person who is just doing what they want to do is actually closer to spiritual truth than probably the people that are actively pursuing it. It's a paradox. If you are looking for enlightenment, you will never find it. And this is why some of the most spiritual people may never even classify themselves as that, or not try to claim as being a spiritual person. They just make the most of life. They love unconditionally. They really throw themselves into living life, building real relationships, risking, giving themselves, trying to do what is best and failing and getting up again, living life, truly living life, not trying to curtail your life into something that is poetic or that sounds good or that will be read off as accolades when you die, but really just living life. And Brenda was one of these people. She really lived life in every sense of the word. And not that she would deny her spiritual side, but it's not something that she would actively claim. She just was spiritual. She just understood. And she understood because she lived it. She had gone through the challenges of life. She had endured, she had survived, and she had grown and lived. She didn't get stuck in any of those stages because she never stopped. She was always growing, always living, always learning. And that is far more spiritual than, I would say, 99% of people that claim to be spiritual people. Really, I think people use spirituality as a form of avoidance or a form of control, something that makes them feel better about themselves, or something that allows them to accept death, or something that allows them to intellectualize their suffering and escape it. You could get one kind of person who has read every different religious text there is, they've studied it at length, and they have meditated for hours, and they've, really tried to attain this enlightenment, or they've tried to meet God or understand life and the meaning of it. And in that pursuit, and after that pursuit, they feel empty. They feel hollow. They don't feel like they understand anything. And the more that they try, the more frustrated they get, because the more you know, the more you realize that you know nothing. And that can be incredibly devastating to someone who's dedicated their entire life to knowing that. But you could get somebody who lived their entire life in a remote island and never really interacted with anything other than the environment around them. They'd never read religious texts. They'd never studied how to meditate, or, never dedicated much time to sitting there and trying to do transcendental meditation. Their meditation is preparing the food that they're going to eat. Their meditation is every breath that they take. It's every moment that they are living in the present moment. And their whole experience is in the present moment. That is a spiritual life. And yet they know nothing of meditation. They know nothing of yoga. They know nothing of spiritual texts or understanding atoms or quantum physics or anything like that. There's no rationale or explanation that they give to living life. They just live life. And in our society, where it's important that we know things, that we're not just doing things, but we know why we're doing things. We're not just living, but we know why we're living. We always have to ascribe some intellectual layer of meaning onto what we do and what we believe and what we think. And all of that is abstracting us away from real life, real lived experience. And many of the ailments that we suffer from today is because we have things too explained to us. We have things too comfortable. We have things too easy. We know too much. And that ends up being the root cause of our suffering, is that this convenience that we have has allowed us to have all of this free time, and free time to be bored, free time to feel like life is not enough, free time to feel like we should be doing more, or that we are insignificant. Because if you were focused every day of your life on survival, of getting food, of getting clean water, of getting wood and drying it, and that your whole existence was dedicated to preserving you and your family's lives, you would have no time at all to be considered or concerned with the triviality of life, or trying to find some meaning into life. It would just be spent in the present moment, doing what you can to protect yourself, to protect the people that you love, and living as a real loving community. That would be what would be important, is looking after one another, being here in life, trying to do what you can to contribute to make others' lives better. But instead we have ovens to cook our food, we have heaters to keep us warm, we've got houses to provide shelter, we've got washing machines to do our washing, and dishwashers to wash our dishes, and all of these technological advancements that have made our lives more convenient. But that convenience has become something that is detrimental to us. We have suffered and drowned in our own convenience. We have nothing but convenience. We don't have meaning anymore. Meaning has been replaced by comfort and convenience, because meaning is found in those day-to-day activities. It's not found in huge goal milestones, because if you look for that, what you find is once you hit the milestone, it's empty. You're back to normal life and you realize, okay, well, now I've got to set another goal. And you become trapped in this loop of chasing meaning. But meaning is found in what we typically classify as meaningless, as inconvenient, as duty. Doing chores, that's seen as something that's, it's just a bad part of life. It's just that we have to do it, but nobody wants to do it. But really, those things are the real meaning of life. Those things are the day-to-day. That is what truly gives your life meaning, is your day-to-day life. Not big events, not parties, not weddings, nothing like that. It's your everyday experience. And if your everyday experience contains love and people that you care about and doing things that make people's lives better and just enjoying life, enjoying having each other, enjoying the present moment and doing things with intent, even those things that seem mundane, even doing those things that seem pointless or laborious, doing those things full-heartedly, knowing that that's what the meaning of life is, that's what you're meant to be doing. If you think that you are better than those things or that those things are beneath you, then you're missing the point. You're missing the whole point. And despite all of your spiritual work, you have failed to understand existence. And the real answer to understanding existence is to realize that you don't. And for that to be okay, for you to not know and to enjoy that, to enjoy the fact that you have no idea why you're here or what is meant for you or what the future will bring. You have no idea, and you don't want to. You don't want to control the outcome. You don't want to be able to predict the future or know that you're going to live this good life that you have in your head. What you want is the surprise of life as it is. And that reminds me of another Alan Watts quote about dreaming any dream. And if you were able, when you go to sleep, to be able to pick your dream and decide exactly what you were going to dream, after many, many nights of, enjoying everything that your mind could come up with, all of the things that you could imagine and doing all of it, you would at some point get bored. You would want a surprise. You would want something that you didn't know what was going to happen. You didn't have it all carefully planned out. And soon enough, you would land exactly where you are now, where you're not in control. You don't know what's coming, and life is a surprise. And as much as we believe and feel like we want to be in control, that we want to be able to predict the future and make anything happen that we want to happen, that isn't what we want. It's a paradox, because if you were to get that, you wouldn't be content. You wouldn't be happy. You may be for a little bit, but once you had sort of lived out your hedonist fantasies, you would be bored. You would want something different. You would want something that you couldn't predict. You would want excitement. You would want meaning. And meaning and excitement and joy, that all comes from ambiguity. It comes from not knowing what's going to happen. It comes from taking a risk. And if you control everything, then you can't be risking anything. And life is full of risk. And if you're avoiding risk, then you are avoiding life. And if you are fighting for control, that is a form of avoiding risk. And then again, you're avoiding life. So live meaningfully. Live life. Truly live it. Allow yourself to dream. Allow yourself to play. Allow yourself to make mistakes, to not know what's going to happen, to do it anyway, to just have an idea and pursue it with reckless abandon for what the consequences are going to be, or, for whether it's going to make you lots of money or whether it's going to make you rich and famous. All of that, throw it out the window. Just do what you want to do every day and live a good life. That is what you are here for. You are here to experience. You are not here to control the experience. So make the most of the time that you have, because you never know when it's going to run out. You never know when the opportunities are going to stop, or when something is going to happen that prevents you from doing what you want to do right now. You take your life for granted every day. We all do. We take the people around us for granted. We take our opportunities and our comforts all for granted. And gratitude is not about saying thank you. It's about living in a way that shows how grateful that you are, that exemplifies just how much you love life, that you love the people around you, that you love the food that you eat, you love the shelter that you have, you love it all. That is real gratitude. Thank you for listening.